The story begins with a bum named Naofumi Iwatani experiencing a strange and unsettling dream. When he wakes up, he finds himself staring blankly, clearly disturbed by what he has seen. Naofumi is a second-year college student who lives a quiet and boring life. He is somewhat of an otaku, preferring books, games, and anime to social interactions. As morning sunlight fills his room, he reflects on his daily routine and his relationship with his family, especially his brother. Naofumi explains that he once helped his brother get his life back on track, and because of this, he now enjoys staying at home with a steady allowance. This allows him to basically be a couch potato and live a peaceful otaku lifestyle, proving to himself that he is not truly one of the so-called shut-ins that society looks down upon. Whenever he feels like going out, his favorite destination is the library, where he spends time reading light novels. On this particular day, Naofumi visits the library as usual. While browsing through the shelves, one book immediately draws his attention. The cover looks unusual, and the title reads, "Waves of Apocalyptic Catastrophe." Curious, he opens the book and begins reading. The story describes a world threatened by repeated disasters known as waves and explains how 4 heroes are summoned from another world to save it. Each hero wields a unique legendary weapon: the sword, the spear, the bow, and the shield. As Naofumi reads further, he realizes that these 4 heroes are the main protagonists of the story. Suddenly, as he turns another page, his vision begins to blur, his eyes change color, strange symbols appear, and before he can react, magic activates around him. The surroundings distort, and Naofumi feels himself being pulled away, falling into what seems like a magical trap. When Naofumi regains awareness, he finds himself surrounded by unfamiliar people wearing strange clothing. They appear excited and relieved, declaring that their plan has finally succeeded. Confused and frightened, Naofumi struggles to understand what is happening. The people kneel before him and beg him to save their world from destruction. As he looks down at his body, he notices something shocking, which is a shield firmly attached to his arm. No matter how much he tries, he cannot remove it. Naofumi soon learns that he has been transported to a different world, where 4 heroes exist simultaneously. Alongside him are 3 other individuals, each wielding one of the remaining legendary weapons. The people of this world explain that an ancient ritual was used to summon the 4 heroes from another realm so they could become the legendary saviors. They plead desperately, explaining that their world is on the verge of collapse due to the waves of ruin. Despite their pleas, the heroes are troubled by the fact that they were summoned without consent. They argue that forcing them into this world is unjust, and even if they help, resentment may still arise. As the 4 heroes walk through the kingdom, they feel the warmth and atmosphere of this new world. However, Naofumi appears less confident and less knowledgeable than the others, who speak with familiarity as though they recognize this world from a game. On their way to meet the king, a mysterious lady observes them quietly from a castle window, her expression unreadable. At the royal palace, the king introduces himself as the ruler of Mel Romark. One by one, the heroes introduce themselves: Ranamaki, Motoyasu Kitamura, Itsuki Kawasumi, and finally, Naofumi Iwatani. When Naofumi speaks, the king clearly shows that he doesn't give a rat's arse about him and barely acknowledges him. The king then explains the prophecy of the waves of ruin, describing how the kingdom underestimated the danger and suffered greatly during the first wave. He declares that only the 4 cardinal heroes can protect the world. The heroes question whether they will be properly rewarded, pointing out that the kingdom seems unprepared. In response, the king instructs them to strengthen their legendary weapons. Naofumi senses that his power does not come from offense, but from defense. Although the heroes suggest forming one party, the king refuses, explaining that the legendary weapons repel each other and that they must travel separately. The heroes are dismissed to rest, and a female attendant escorts them to their rooms. Inside their shared room, the heroes talk casually, discussing how strange the food tastes and comparing their situation to a familiar online game called Emerald Online. They test each other with trivia questions, revealing that Naofumi lacks the same level of gaming knowledge as the others. The 3 heroes openly dismiss the shield as a useless weapon, but Naofumi silently resolves to do his best. Leaving the room, he reflects on his role as the shield hero, reminding himself that defense is essential. He also secretly hopes that this new world might offer romance, since he was unable to lose his V-card in his previous world. Determined, he vows to master his shield no matter how weak it seems. The next day, warriors gather at the palace to form parties with the heroes. Each warrior eagerly chooses a hero, but none approach Naofumi. The king explains that rumors claim the shield hero is ignorant and unworthy. Motoyasu suggests that people may have overheard earlier conversations. Naofumi refuses to journey alone and pleads for assistance, but the others refuse. Eventually, a young noblewoman named Mine volunteers to join him. Despite the king asking again, no one else steps forward. The king assigns each hero a monthly allowance, giving Naofumi a higher amount, and sends them off. The other heroes bid Naofumi farewell, unable to help further. Naofumi and Mine introduce themselves properly and begin their journey. Mine explains the geography of the kingdom while guiding him through town. Naofumi realizes he needs proper equipment, and Mine takes him to an equipment shop. The shop owner recognizes Mine, but finds Naofumi strange. Upon noticing the shield mark, he realizes Naofumi is one of the heroes. Despite hearing rumors, Naofumi introduces himself respectfully. respectfully. When Naofumi attempts to wield a sword, it violently rejects him. The shop owner examines the shield with a magical mirror and discovers its immense internal power. Unable to remove it, Naofumi purchases armor after Mind negotiates the price. During their first adventure, Naofumi battles an orange balloon monster. Unable to attack, he relies solely on defense. He explains to Mind that he does not feel pain and must absorb materials to upgrade his shield. He suggests selling monster drops. Realizing the monsters are weak, they decide to continue another day. The next day, they argue with the shop owner over prices but eventually agree. Naofumi learns that monster materials can only be sold to specialized merchants. Later, they eat together at the castle and plan a trip to Loot Village. Mine offers him wine, which he declines. He thanks her for standing by him and later thinks about the fact that he's running low on cash before falling asleep. The following morning, Naofumi discovers that all his money, armor, and belongings are gone. Guards escort him to the palace where Mine falsely accuses him of forcefully trying to get a taste of her cookie. Despite his protests, false evidence is presented, and the king believes her. Naofumi realizes he has been betrayed and begs to return home, but the king refuses, stating that the waves must be defeated first. Abandoned and disgraced, Naofumi receives cheap armor from the shop owner and vows to repay him. Training alone, he levels up and upgrades his shield using plants and monster materials. At the palace, he is treated coldly. Warriors attempt to exploit him, but he refuses. Eventually, a mysterious man introduces him to the concept of demi-human slaves. Inside the slave trader shop, Naofumi hears a frightened girl crying and finds her chained and helpless. At the place where the man deals in demi-humans, Naofumi carefully examines the different slaves on display. He studies them closely, trying to determine which one would be affordable, obedient, and useful for survival and combat. Because he has very limited money, Naofumi is forced to consider only the cheapest options. The slave trader notices Naofumi's hesitation and decides to recommend a particular demi-human girl. He explains that she is inexpensive because she is extremely stubborn and difficult to control. According to the trader, she often refuses to obey orders and must be disciplined harshly to be kept in line. The trader then demonstrates how obedience is enforced. He places a magical slave crest on the girl's body, explaining that the mark will inflict pain on her whenever she disobeys her master. This ensures complete control over her actions. Although Naofumi feels uncomfortable witnessing this, he understands that he cannot survive alone in this world. After some hesitation, he agrees to the purchase and pays for the slave, whose name is Raftalia. Afterward, Naofumi takes Raftalia to the equipment shop and asks the shop owner to provide her with basic gear suitable for combat. The owner equips her with simple but functional equipment. Once they leave the shop, Naofumi immediately begins training her by hunting orange balloon monsters. At first, Raftalia hesitates, overwhelmed by fear and confusion. She even attempts to disobey Naofumi by harming herself rather than attacking the monster, triggering the pain caused by the slave crest. However, driven by desperation and survival instinct, she eventually attacks the orange balloon monster with all her strength and successfully defeats it. As the monster bursts, Raftalia's level increases, and Naofumi's level also rises as a result. Naofumi explains to her that working hard and becoming stronger is necessary, not only for survival but also so he can recover the money he spent to buy her. Although his words sound cold, his actions suggest that he wants her to grow and endure in this harsh world. After training, Naofumi and Raftalia leave the equipment shop area and head toward the castle to get food. At the entrance, Raftalia pauses after reading a sign that clearly states demi-humans are not allowed to eat there. Naofumi does not immediately understand why she hesitates and urges her forward. When they enter the dining area, the people inside stare in shock and disbelief upon seeing the shield hero, accompanied by a demi-human slave. Despite the tension, Raftalia is eventually served the food she desires. She eats hungrily, as if she has not seen food in eons. Watching her eat reminds Naofumi of how harsh her life must have been before they met. After finishing their meal, the two return to adventuring. Naofumi continues training Raftalia by fighting more orange balloon monsters. With each battle, both of them gain experience, unlock new skills, and grow stronger together. During one of their breaks, Raftalia curiously asks Naofumi for his name. Naofumi formally introduces himself as Naofumi Iwatani, one of the 4 cardinal heroes. Hearing this shocks Raftalia deeply. She recalls memories of her parents, who once told her stories about the shield hero being a kind protector of demi-humans. Those stories gave her hope during her childhood, and she secretly wished to meet the shield hero someday. Realizing that the man she now serves is the very hero her parents admired overwhelms her with emotion. Naofumi gives Raftalia a bitter medicinal drink. Shortly after consuming it, she falls into a dream where she sees her parents again. When she wakes up, tears stream down her face as the painful memories resurface. Naofumi gently comforts her by patting her head, offering silent reassurance instead of words. Later, Naofumi visits a medicine shop and explains to the owner how he created his first medicine. The shop owner informs him that selling medicine is far more profitable than selling raw herbs, especially because the ongoing waves have increased demand for healing supplies. Outside the shop, Naofumi notices Raftalia quietly watching 2 children playing with a ball. When he asks if she wants to play, she denies it, trying to hide her her feelings. However, Naofumi sees through her act and buys a ball for her anyway. Raphtalia accepts it gratefully, touched by his kindness. As night approaches, Naofumi and Raphtalia seek lodging at an inn. Naofumi warns the innkeeper that Raphtalia sometimes cries at night. Hearing this, the innkeeper immediately refuses them. Naofumi threatens him by mentioning dangerous monsters like orange balloons, and the innkeeper reluctantly allows them to stay, hoping to survive the next wave. During their stay, Naofumi takes care of Raphtalia by grooming her hair, sharing meals with her, and ensuring she feels safe. That night, they sleep in the same room, slowly building trust. The next morning, they wake up and prepare for another day of adventure. Raphtalia trains harder than before, determined to improve. On their way to the forest, a rabbit monster suddenly attacks and bites Naofumi. Naofumi orders Raphtalia to strike it down, but she freezes, unable to act. The slave crest activates, causing her intense pain as punishment for disobedience. She tearfully explains that she hates the sight of blood, which prevents her from attacking. Naofumi calmly explains that another catastrophic wave is approaching and that he must grow stronger to protect the world. He tells her that he needs a partner who can fight beside him. Inspired by his resolve, Raphtalia overcomes her fear and kills the rabbit monster. She firmly declares that she will fight alongside him and never abandon him. Afterward, Naofumi buys Raphtalia a sword from the equipment shop. He asks the shop owner about traveling with equipment, but the man explains that all gear must remain stored at the shop. After checking a map, the owner suggests a nearby town where they might earn money. In the new town, Naofumi asks a shopkeeper about quick ways to earn income. The man mentions a coal pit that has become infested with monsters since the first wave, making it extremely dangerous. Naofumi and Raphtalia decide to investigate. As they venture deeper into the pit, Raphtalia becomes frightened when a large dog monster appears. Naofumi grabs her and jumps into the water to escape. Afterward, Raphtalia explains that dog monsters killed her parents and destroyed her village during the first wave. Naofumi finally understands why she cries at night. He encourages her to face her fear so the same tragedy does not repeat. When the dog monster attacks again, Naofumi allows it to bite him and urges Raphtalia to fight. Despite her trauma, she overcomes her fear and defeats the monster. After the battle, Raphtalia rushes to Naofumi and hugs him tightly, crying and begging him not to die. Although he feels pain from the wound, Naofumi praises her bravery. He admits that while he can only defend, he needs someone who can attack, and Raphtalia has proven herself. Together, they realize that by trusting one another, they can survive this cruel world. Naofumi and Raphtalia remain in the coal mining town for several days after their arrival. During this period, they continue working inside the coal pit, fighting monsters that have overrun the area since the previous wave. Each day is filled with constant danger and relentless battles. As they explore deeper into the mines and surrounding areas, Naofumi notices that his skills are improving rapidly. His defensive abilities grow stronger with every fight, to the point that he can no longer keep track of how many skills he has unlocked. Monsters attack them repeatedly from different directions, but Naofumi stands firm and defends against every assault without hesitation. After spending many days adventuring and gaining experience in the coal town, Naofumi and Raphtalia finally decide to return to the equipment merchant who has been supplying them earlier. When they arrive, the merchant is shocked and struggles to recognize Raphtalia at first. She has changed dramatically since their last visit. No longer the small, weak, and frightened child she once was, Raphtalia has grown into a mature and confident young girl. Her posture, expression, and strength clearly show the results of her hard training and battles. The merchant can hardly believe that this is the same girl he has seen before. After leaving the shop, Naofumi and Raphtalia walk around the town together. As they pass through the market, several vendors notice Raphtalia and comment on how cute and charming she looks. Their reactions surprise her, as she is not used to receiving such attention. Later, the two of them return to the equipment shop with a new purpose. Naofumi wants to buy proper armor for Raphtalia, and Raphtalia, in turn, plans to get armor for Naofumi as well. She chooses a magical sword for herself, which makes Naofumi realize how much she has changed. She is now confident enough to make decisions for herself and no longer relies entirely on him. However, when they ask for armor, the merchant explains that he does not have the specific items they want at the moment. He asks them to return the next day, promising that the armor will be prepared by then. Sometime later, Naofumi and Raphtalia go to the castle to eat. During their meal, Raphtalia speaks cheerfully about how kind and helpful the equipment merchant has been to her. Naofumi, however, does not fully agree with her opinion and remains cautious. When it is time to order food, Naofumi asks the server to bring a children's meal for Raphtalia, assuming it will suit her. Raphtalia immediately disagrees and insists that she wants to eat the same meal as him, showing once again that she no longer sees herself as a child. The next day, Naofumi and Raphtalia return to the equipment shop as promised. The merchant hands Naofumi the armor he has requested. Naofumi hesitates to accept it at first, feeling uncomfortable because the merchant has gone out of his way to prepare it specially for him. However, he eventually accepts accepts it, knowing that he needs better equipment for the battles ahead. While they are talking, they notice a large group of villagers gathering nearby. Curious, Naofumi learns that the people have assembled because the next wave is approaching soon. He thinks to himself that if he knows the exact time the wave will begin, he can prepare more effectively. The merchant then explains that there is a church in the town square containing a large magical hourglass. When the final grain of sand falls, all the heroes and their parties will be transported directly to the location where the wave will begin. After hearing this explanation, Naofumi and Raphtalia go to the church to see the hourglass for themselves. Inside, Naofumi recognizes it as the same dragon hourglass the king has mentioned before. By observing it closely, he realizes that the wave is already very near. As he turns around, he suddenly hears the voice of Motoyasu and the other heroes mocking him. They laugh at his equipment and criticize him for traveling with what they consider flimsy gear. Raphtalia, confused by their behavior, asks Naofumi what they are talking about, but he chooses not to answer. Instead, he tries to avoid them and move away. However, Motoyasu approaches Raphtalia directly and introduces himself as the spear hero. He tells her that someone as cute as her does not need to wield a sword and promises to protect her instead. Raphtalia immediately rejects his offer, making it clear that she trusts Naofumi. Naofumi quickly pulls her away, trying to stop her from hearing the rumors Motoyasu has to say about him. After leaving the church, they go to a quiet place. Raphtalia asks Naofumi what went wrong between him and the other heroes. He remains silent, unable or unwilling to explain. She notices his mood and softly wishes him good night before leaving him alone. Deep inside, Naofumi knows it is not that he cannot explain the situation, but he believes that even if he does, no one will believe him. Later that night, Raphtalia returns and speaks sincerely to Naofumi. She thanks him for everything he has done for her. She tells him that through his kindness he has cured her illness, given her warm meals, taught her how to survive, and shown her a reason to fight. With strong determination, she declares that she is his sword and that wherever he goes, she will always follow him. Soon, the countdown to the wave reaches its end. The world suddenly changes as a powerful and catastrophic force sweeps across the land. Monsters appear everywhere and begin attacking the villagers. Raphtalia charges forward bravely, slashing at the monsters with her sword, while the shield hero stands at the front, drawing the monsters toward himself and blocking their attacks. His goal is to protect the villagers and give them enough time to evacuate safely. As chaos spreads, Naofumi thinks carefully about how to minimize damage and casualties. Even though many warriors initially run away to save themselves, they are inspired by the courage of the shield hero and return to fight alongside him. Unfortunately, their strength is not enough to withstand the monsters. Naofumi orders them to retreat and save their lives, choosing to fight alongside Raphtalia instead. Together, they fight with full determination, eliminating the monsters one by one. Despite Naofumi's efforts, some knights and villagers continue to speak badly about him, unaware that he can hear their words. Raphtalia stands up for him and defends him passionately. Even while being insulted, Naofumi continues protecting them without hesitation. He uses all his skills to hold back the monsters. Eventually, the sky changes once again, and the world returns to normal, signaling the end of the wave. After everything settles, the other heroes search for Naofumi but cannot find him. Mind tells Motoyasu not to bother looking for the shield hero. Shortly afterward, the king's knights arrive and announce that the king is calling the heroes to receive their rewards. The injured are treated and tended to. As Naofumi and Raphtalia stand together, she asks him what they should do next since the monsters have been defeated. Before they can leave, several villagers approach Naofumi to thank him sincerely, admitting that they would not have survived without his help. Raphtalia points out that their gratitude is genuine and expresses her own feelings about fighting and defeating the monsters. Together, they stand quietly, realizing that despite everything, their efforts have made a real difference. After the wave successfully vanishes from the world, the king of Melremark celebrates the moment with the legendary heroes by hosting a grand feast. The shield hero stays in a quiet corner witnessing the festivities at the palace, while the other heroes enjoy the event with their respective party members. Where the shield hero stands, Raphtalia is also there, urging him to eat the tasty food provided by the palace. Though he initially refuses to eat, she eventually convinces him to have a taste. While the two of them are talking in their corner, the other heroes appear. Motoyasu begins antagonizing Naofumi, questioning him about the rumors that Raphtalia is his slave. Motoyasu tries to shame Naofumi, claiming that slavery is not legal for heroes in this world. Taking a bold step, Motoyasu challenges Naofumi to a fight, declaring that if he wins, he can take anything he wishes. Naofumi simply turns his back on them and begins to leave Raphtalia behind. On Naofumi's way out, the king's guards block his path. The king appears, claiming he overheard the conversation regarding the demi-human slave. He calls Naofumi rotten to the core and commands him to accept the challenge and fight Motoyasu. Raphtalia tries to tell the king that she wished to be his slave, but before she can finish her statement, the king subjects her to a curse for defending Naofumi. He tells the shield hero that he must fight Motoyasu. If Naofumi wins, the king will release Raphtalia back to him. This manipulation makes Naofumi grow incredibly angry. The duel begins between the spear hero, Motoyasu, and the shield hero, Naofumi, in front of the king of Melremark. As the battle starts, Naofumi uses his shield to defend while the spear hero attacks. To gain the upper hand, Naofumi uses orange balloons to fight and employs various shield skills to pressure his opponent. He eventually uses a chain to hold Motoyasu down and asks the spear hero to admit defeat. However, before he can secure the win, Mine uses her magic secretly to blast Naofumi. The fight becomes a 2-on-1 struggle, and the spear hero eventually defeats the shield hero. The people in the king grant Motoyasu the victory, but Naofumi stands up and announces that Mine used magic to interfere. As he explains this to the king, the people refuse to listen, calling him a scumbag. He realizes there is no way to prove his story because the magic was subtle. The king gives the glory to the spear hero, praising his daughter for choosing such a great hero. Naofumi finally understands that Mine is the king's daughter, realizing why everyone believes her lies so easily. Mine then whispers a false story into Motoyasu's ear, claiming Naofumi forced Raphtalia into slavery, urging him to save her. The villagers and the king blame the shield hero for everything and discuss getting rid of him or executing him. They eventually forcibly remove the slave curse from Raphtalia. Naofumi, filled with rage and despair, tries to throw his shield away, but the legendary mark returns to him instantly. He regrets ever being summoned to suffer alone. Immediately after the curse is removed, Raphtalia marches up to Motoyasu and slaps him across the face for his bad treatment and false accusations against Naofumi. She explains that the curse was not against her will. She needed it because Naofumi is unauthorized to use weapons, meaning someone has to fight for him. She tells everyone that Naofumi has treated her with nothing but kindness, feeding her and providing daily medicine for her illness, and that he has never done anything bad to her. Raphtalia asks Motoyasu if he is capable of doing everything Naofumi has done for her, leaving the spear hero speechless until Mine silences her. As they speak, the remaining heroes observe the scenario and finally understand the truth. They defend the shield hero, asking Mine why she interfered with her magic. Even the king saw the wind power, but he remains silent. By the end, the atmosphere settles as the other two heroes testify that they witnessed mind-blowing wind magic at Naofumi. Raphtalia goes to meet Naofumi in his weakened state. At first, he does not believe her words, thinking she has returned only to laugh at his loss. He assumes she believes the rumors, but she makes him understand that she will always stand by him regardless of the circumstances. He still struggles to believe her, convinced she is just looking at his loser face. Naofumi refuses to face anyone until dawn, blaming the shield weapon for his misery in this world. However, Raphtalia helps him understand that it is because of that shield that she is still alive. When he tries to lie to himself, claiming he is not a nice person and that he only saved himself during the wave, Raphtalia hugs him. She tells him she knows him better than anyone. She declares that even if the world speaks ill of him, she will tell them they are wrong. She credits him with giving her a life, a sword, and a purpose. She declares that she is his sword and will follow him through fire and brimstone. Naofumi becomes overwhelmed with emotion because he has never heard such kind words. He still looks at her as a child, but she tells him she is no longer a kid. He begins to cry, finally letting his emotions out. The king and others watch this drama, while the spear hero finally begins to question his actions, realizing there was no sin in their bond. The next day comes, and Naofumi wakes up with his head in Raphtalia's lap, hardly believing she stayed with him. He notices a dramatic change in Raphtalia as she has matured further, her body conforming to her growth. She explains that people often discriminate against demi-humans as beasts, yet she serves him the leftover meal from the palace feast that caused him so much trouble. Together, they agree to stay by each other's side through both good and bad times. At the palace in another town in the queen's place, one messenger is secretly passing information to her about the shield hero and what the king is up to regarding the summons of the 4 heroes. At the court of the king of Melremark, he calls all the heroes and rewards them because of the work they did during the wave and for fulfilling the request. He gives the spear hero, Motoyasu, 5,000 silvers and gives the 2 other heroes, Ren and Itsuki, 3,800 silvers more than what he gave Motoyasu in total value, but decides not to give the shield hero anything because of him taking Raphtalia as a slave and because the king has offset the curse away from Raphtalia. Immediately, Ren and Itsuki take Naofumi's side, arguing that if not for the spell Mine cast during the fight between Naofumi and Motoyasu, Naofumi would have won. However, Mine denies the fact that she interfered. Instead, she tells him that Naofumi was the one who started using monsters to fight, and that is the reason why the king decided to act. So, the king decides to give Naofumi half of the share he planned to give him. Afterward, Naofumi and Raphtalia go back to the slave trader, and Raphtalia asks the man to give her the slave curse again so that Naofumi can trust her and know that she cannot leave him. The man advises Naofumi to do something to unlock another level of the shield within him, telling him he will win a monster chick, but not in the baddie kind of way. The man further advises Naofumi that through that they can also win a dragon worth 20 gold pieces, but Naofumi understands that this is a gacha game. The man even advises him to act now, offering him a package deal and a slave crest. With everything the man says to him, he agrees to do it so as not to let Raphtalia continue fighting alone. After a while, Naofumi and Raphtalia go to meet a man, and the man tells him that people from Loot Village have asked him to help Naofumi. He does not recognize the man, but Raphtalia does. The man tells Naofumi that there is a book containing finer medicine and permits him to take the book, but when Naofumi opens the book, he cannot understand the world's language. Eventually, the man tells him that there is an old hag at the magic shop who wants to see him because he helped her grandchild back in Loot Village. Raphtalia and Naofumi eventually go to meet the woman at the magic shop, and the woman tells him that he has a strong affinity for healing and supporting magic. She continues by saying the young lady, Raphtalia, has a light and dark magic affinity because she is a half-raccoon, and the woman recommends Raphtalia learn illusion magic. The woman hands them a book, but Naofumi tells the woman that they do not have the money to buy the magic grimoire book for now. However, the woman decides to give it to the two of them for her grandchild's sake. She tells him that the magic grimoire is a bit complex, but there are many spells to learn from it as long as he keeps it and does his best. He really appreciates the woman and leaves the shop with Raphtalia. Raphtalia and Naofumi are left alone, and he tells her that he wishes there was a skill that could translate books for him. Raphtalia tells him that both of them can study together, learning both the language and the magic since the next wave is coming up 1 month from that moment. Thereafter, Naofumi tells Raphtalia to go to Loot Village to spend the night, and the next day they will go to grind some levels after breakfast. At Loot Village, at night, Raphtalia and Naofumi are together. Soon after, he wakes her up from her sleep while holding on to the basket he bought from the trade master, and all of a sudden the egg hatches. A small bird called Filo comes out from the egg and imprints on him. Raphtalia decides to give it a name because of the bird's cuteness. As they go from one place to another, the bird follows them, and gradually the bird starts carrying Naofumi and grows large. Within 2 days, the bird, Filo, grows so much that Naofumi knows his growth booster will make her grow well too. Raphtalia and Naofumi cage Filo in a place, and both of them hear the sound of people saying the king's knights are around. Mine announces to the people that due to the last wave, the king has appointed the spear hero, Motoyasu, as the ruling lord of the region where Raphtalia and Naofumi are staying. They decide to enforce a levy toll on the people in that region, demanding 50 silvers to enter the village and 50 to exit. People in the village find it absurd, especially since the villagers don't know what they will eat the next day. But Naofumi raises his voice to ask a question, but Main does not allow him, saying he has no rights and that it is Motoyasu who is the master of the region, so they must follow orders. Mine even tells Naofumi to leave the village if it is not going to work for him, and he tells Mine that before he leaves, he must say the illegal order they are placing on them is not right, especially since sleeping at an inn is very cheap. The villagers agree with what Naofumi said, noting that it was the shield hero who supported them during the wave. So, Mine immediately draws her sword to scare the villagers, but 3 people appear out of nowhere, shocking Mine. The 3 people wearing black hand a letter to Mine, and that letter scares her. The villagers tell Naofumi to fight Mine if he wants to save the villagers of that region. When Naofumi declines, the villagers beg him to fight for them and take part in the dragon race. While he is still talking with the villagers, he notices that the letter Mine received was one she did not like, and that she is setting it up for him to fight. Meanwhile, Filo already faces the dragon, and Raphtalia understands the fact that Filo and dragons do not get along, so the villagers beg Naofumi to fight for them, promising a reward after the fight, and he tells them that whatever happens if he loses isn't his responsibility. When Naofumi agrees to do it because of the villagers, Motoyasu is seen running his mouth, saying he thought Filo was a dragon but saw she was just an ordinary bird. Filo kicks him out and he falls dramatically. Mine looks back and sees her mighty Motoyasu fall to the ground while Naofumi and Filo start mocking them. As they are about to start, the head of the villagers tells them the condition. Whoever reaches the gate first will be declared the winner between the dragon and Filo. So, they start the race between the dragon and Filo, with Motoyasu riding the dragon and Naofumi on Filo. When Filo almost reaches the gate, a man uses magic and suddenly creates a hole for Filo and Naofumi to fall into, and both of them eventually fall down. However, Filo and Naofumi resume their race, even though Mine uses many magic casters to distract them. They don't give up, and eventually, they win. The villagers appreciate Naofumi, and before they know it, Filo transforms into a baby. This makes Mine announce to them that it was Naofumi who cheated, whereas they were the ones who cheated by creating a magic hole in the ground. Mine asks Naofumi for proof of the hole, but the 3 black-clad people defend Naofumi, stating that what he said is true and that they also perceived a magic hole throughout the race. So, Motoyasu shamelessly leaves the village and promises Naofumi that he will come again. Later on, the villagers show their gratitude, but Naofumi tells them he does not want money for gratitude. Filo suggests they should give them a carriage. So, Naofumi and his 2 companions travel with the carriage, but on their way, Raphtalia gets motion sickness and Naofumi takes care of her. At night, Naofumi lays Raphtalia in a warm place and thinks about what the man did for him by giving him a pass to be a traveling trader. He uses that as an opportunity to do business while still fighting monsters and leveling up. The next morning, Raphtalia wakes Naofumi from his sleep because she noticed Filo sleeping naked. Filo has turned into a human because her feathers were stuffing Naofumi the previous night, but seeing her human transformation scares both of them. In the afternoon, Naofumi, Raphtalia, and his other slave, Filo, who has transformed transformed into a small girl, head out to meet a man selling equipment. The man teases Naofumi, saying he always seems to show up whenever he has acquired a new slave. Filo sees some goods on the man's table and tells Naofumi that she wishes to take a bite. The man gives it to her, and she suddenly changes back into her bird form of a massive height, making the merchant very curious. Curiously, the equipment seller asks Raphtalia and Naofumi about the deal with Filo. Raphtalia explains that, according to the slave merchant, Filials have a king or queen among them leading each flock. They are skilled at transforming into human shapes, but they require a special crest. Once they are given their crest, they can resist different things. The man asks why they have come to him if not just to show off the Filolial, and Naofumi explains that they need many clothes because, unlike the Hulk's genes, once Filolials transform, they tend to rip their outfits apart every single time. However, the man tells them he doesn't have any suitable clothes and suggests they go to someone who makes dresses. At the dressmaker shop, the dressmaker sees Filo as a cute small girl since she has transformed into a human. She curiously asks if Naofumi is actually her father, but he tells her that he is not her father but rather her owner. When she asks Naofumi to compliment her dress, Naofumi gives only a casual response. The dressmaker suggests different clothing materials and explains that she will make the clothes with magic thread so that they will not tear apart during transformations. Afterward, Naofumi, Raphtalia, and Filo go to meet a magic woman, an old hag, who explains the type of machine to use for magic clothes. Curiously, Filo leaves their side and sees a crystal ball. She asks the woman what its uses are, and the woman instantly uses it to check Filo's magic power. She tells Filo she has a wind affinity and can blow away all her enemies. Filo feels proud of herself for having the special power of a wind affinity for her carriage work, and determines that anytime she sees the spear hero, she will kick his ego far up his arse. Naofumi tells the two, who are his slaves, that they should travel and make some money. On their way, with Filo pulling them in a carriage, they see a man trekking alone. The man asks for help, saying he needs to get medicine to a village further down the road. Naofumi decides to help the man, using Filo to carry him without the carriage. Naofumi tells the man he can pay later, as he doesn't want gratitude since the man said he had no money with him. Naofumi and the man get to their destination, and the man delivers the medicine to his mother while Naofumi listens to their conversation. Naofumi advises the man to warm some water. When the man delivers the water to Naofumi, Naofumi feeds it to the sick mother and immediately uses a magical spell on her. Instantly, the sick mother is healed, making both the woman and the man wonder what kind of magic spell he used. The man appreciates Naofumi with many silvers, and Naofumi continues his ride with Filo, thinking that he can do more work than just selling goods, but he can transport people too. Naofumi does a lot of work with Raphtalia and Filo, and they do well together in good and bad times. One day, while Naofumi and his two slaves are working normally, they carry a man on their way when a group of people blocks them. The passenger is a man who deals with accessories. The bandits call for a fight, but Raphtalia and Filo use magic to hang them together in one place. These bandits eventually ask Naofumi if he is the shield hero because he fought them without a weapon. Naofumi threatens them, saying that if he releases them to the local guards, they will start spreading rumors that the shield hero treated them cruelly. He uses Filo to threaten them further, asking her to eat them since she is an omnivore. That is when they realize the shield hero was once their savior, and they beg for mercy. Naofumi suggests he will release them if they work for him. Raphtalia doesn't initially buy the idea but later accepts it. Naofumi takes the opportunity to ask the accessory man how he's going to compensate him for the trouble and for using people to help carry the load. The accessory man tells Naofumi that he will offer him his knowledge and connections. Later, the man starts teaching Naofumi how to process precious metals into crafted gems and much more. The accessory man even manages to teach him some spells, and Naofumi starts getting a feel for mana and gains new business ventures. Through the man, Naofumi hears that Motoyasu has apparently saved a famine-stricken village to the southwest. Ran is apparently in the southeast looking for vicious monsters to slay, having even taken a dragon down. Itsuki is also going into dungeons on a quest for treasure. Naofumi really appreciates the accessory man for providing him with ample knowledge and connections. Shortly after, using the connection the accessory man gave him, Naofumi goes to a person who tells him he will provide gemstones at a discount. He asks for a gemstone to make magic thread. After a while, he brings the old hag magic woman to the gemstone merchant, and they travel to the location of a notorious building, an evil alchemist's base of operations. They enter a deep tunnel. As they go deep into the tunnel, Naofumi advises the old hag and Raphtalia to stay on their toes because of monsters. As they go deeper, a witch's voice enters Filo's mind, saying she will kill Naofumi from behind and that he is just pretending she is his slave. Immediately, the magic woman casts out the spell and opens their eyes, revealing the monsters behind the voice. Immediately, Naofumi sends Filo to fight the monsters. As they continue, they notice Nue monsters. Filo and Raphtalia don't wait before attacking, and the Nue attacks them back. Eventually, the magic woman uses a fire blast, and Filo makes a loud sound to destroy the new completely. They eventually find the beautiful magic thread needed to make the dress for Filo. After a while, the magic woman gathers all the magic thread required and tells Filo, who is changed back to human form, to start sewing. As she sews, the magic woman promises her a snack once she finishes with the sewing machine. Hearing that snacks are involved, she struggles through the work to finish the sewing. At last, they complete Filo's dress, and she looks even cuter. One afternoon, Naofumi urgently receives an order to deliver herbicide to the south. On his way to deliver the medicine, he sees vines obstructing his path and tells Filo to take them directly there. At the town, Naofumi sees the villagers and informs them about the fall of vines covering the town. The villagers tell him that they have tried so many solutions to these vines, and they even summoned adventurers, but these unending vines eventually turned into monsters that started attacking them. They explain that the adventurers made things even worse for them and could not do anything to stop it. Immediately after Naofumi hears this, he calls for Filo to go and bring back all of those adventurers. After Filo brings back these adventurers, she starts to talk, making people wonder if there is a heavenly fowl that is capable of speaking. The villagers then remember that they have been hearing rumors about a savior who travels in a carriage drawn by a heavenly fowl. The villagers beg Naofumi to help them heal the sick because, through the devouring plants, their bodies became ill. So, immediately, Naofumi uses his skills to heal those who are sick. After that, the villagers beg him again, explaining that the village has been suffering from famine since the visit of the spear hero, who planted a seed in the village. They explain that while they initially thought the miracle seed made their plants grow well, it reached a point where things came to ruin the village. The villagers beg Naofumi to help them. He initially hesitates because he does not like cleaning up Motoyasu's mess, but Naofumi ends up doing it anyway. He plans to get rid of the vines and the source with his natural skills. As the trees start regenerating, he uses his shield skills to walk through the vines, making Filo and Raphtalia see what the shield hero can do himself. Naofumi tells his two servants to gather all the pieces of the vines together. As they are doing that, Filo and Raphtalia fight over a flower, arguing over who is going to take it, while Naofumi performs an experiment with a stick using plant modification. The villagers gather, and they appreciate the shield hero for the success of the work, and he tells them to gather the vines and the branches they cut themselves. At night, all the villagers gather together with Filo, Raphtalia, and Naofumi outside. Naofumi still holds one of the seeds of the vines with him and performs another experiment where he curbs the poisonous vines and any toxic traits, and the plants grow well with many fruits without turning into monsters. So, he gives the village what will sustain them and offers them the fruit at an exchange rate, but the villagers do not have any money to give him, so he carries the fruit away with the intention of selling it later without stress. Afterward, Naofumi goes to the accessory man and sells the seed to him, and the man appreciates it. The man then asks for a favor from him, requesting that he deliver goods to an inn located in the hot spring town. At the hot spring town, Filo tells Naofumi that she really wants to go to the hot spring and experience the place, and when he asks Raphtalia about her wish, she hides the fact that she wants to go. However, Naofumi already knows that she really wishes to go and decides that they will all spend their night at the hot spring, making them happy and causing Filo to hug him, which makes Raphtalia start feeling jealous. At the hot spring inn, Raphtalia is in the water bath and feels jealous of Filo getting more clingy to Naofumi, wishing she could be clingy with him too. The history of the hot spring distracts her and she starts to dream of swimming with him. She then starts hearing Filo's and Naofumi's voices from another bath as he brushes her hair, making her even more jealous. At sleep time, Naofumi and his two servants lay down on the bed, while Raphtalia thinks of what she can do to get Naofumi back from Filo. She thinks of getting a gift for him so he will value it and love her more. So, Raphtalia stands up and starts looking for something called ladium on the mountain, and Filo joins her in searching for eggs from a bird called a gagako, which is a rare delicacy. But Filo's greed causes her to start running ahead of Raphtalia, and she almost falls. When Raphtalia tries to help her, both of them fall together. They do not realize they have fallen into a monster's nest. In the morning, Raphtalia and Filo appear carrying the monster that chased them. They meet two people on their way who ask them to hand over what they are carrying, a silver razorback monster that is used for offerings and town rituals. Both of them later sell the silver razorback for a tool that will help Naofumi in crafting metals. Raphtalia and Filo present the tool to Naofumi as a gift. He tells both of them to take a dip at the hot spring, which gladdens them. However, Raphtalia tells herself that one day she will make him recognize her womanly charms. At night, Naofumi starts doing his metal crafting while Filo and Raphtalia are sleeping. The next day, Naofumi and his two slaves get to a new town, but one villager warns him to turn back. He says that if they continue going down into the village, they will die, as there is even a plague that has reached the village elder. This makes Naofumi and Raphtalia curious as to what might be the cause of the plague. Naofumi and his two slaves travel down into the town they were warned about to sell medicine to them as a traveling merchant. Seeing Filo, one of the villagers calls for the village doctor upon seeing the heavenly fowl. Naofumi enters the place where the sick people are, and they all get healed by the medicine Naofumi gives them. However, the village gives him only a small amount of silvers, which he rejects. The people explain to him that there is is a wind from the mountain, which is home to monsters, that causes the sickness, and that they have not been totally cured from the illness. They explain that a month ago, there was a dragon that nested at the mountain, and it was the sword hero who killed the monster. They say that many adventurers came to get the dragon materials, but all of a sudden, those adventurers collapsed one by one as the dragon flesh started to emit and rot out some kind of poison. Eventually, Raphtalia asks the villagers why they cannot sort it out since they know the cause. So they explain that the mountain is filled with violent monsters, so only adventurers can enter the place. And that again, because of the dragon poison, the ecology there would have changed. So they tell Naofumi and Raphtalia that they have taken a stand by telling the court, but they are delaying the medicine. Naofumi tells the villagers to cancel the court request and tells Raphtalia to prepare to set out. He asks them to give him the money they plan to give to the court, and he demands a large amount of silver from them, giving the villagers a wrong impression about him as being just a money grubber rather than a savior. Afterward, Naofumi and the others set out to the mountain, and Raphtalia curiously asks him if he deliberately demanded the large amount of money from them to make them hate him. He does not answer her, thinking instead about all the monsters and the dragon they'll face where they're going. And truly, on their way, they see a lot of monsters but avoid them. They eventually get to where the dead dragon is. When they move closer, the dragon is already standing up, and Naofumi realizes that the dragon is not an ordinary dragon, but a dragon zombie. When Filo moves closer to the dragon, she attacks the dragon first because she hates seeing dragons, but they notice that the dragon is pouring out a poisonous substance. Filo and Raphtalia go to the back of Naofumi to prevent exposure to it, but he realizes that while he can take it, Raphtalia cannot absorb so much of it. Filo gets even angrier and attacks the dragon without listening to Naofumi's idea, but at the end of it, the dragon consumes Filo, making Raphtalia and Naofumi lose their moment of happiness as they lose a dear soul. Naofumi feels a hate shield within him, and he angrily turns into a monster, burning the zombie dragon into ash. He remembers the hateful memories of the king and mine, but then he remembers the words of Raphtalia and that she trusts him, so he turns back to normal. Sadly, Raphtalia also collapses while the dragon comes back to life, but Naofumi has hatred in his mind and completely uses his last skills to destroy the zombie dragon. While he is trying to heal Raphtalia with his healing magic, it does not work in time. But when he successfully destroys the dragon, Raphtalia comes back to life with the healing magic that he used before. To their surprise, the dead Filo comes back to life, surprising Raphtalia and Naofumi because they saw with their own eyes that the dragon consumed her with her blood flowing through the dragon's mouth. But Filo explains that during that time she gobbled up what she was eating, which is why they saw red things. She explains that inside the dragon's stomach, she saw a shining crystal, and she tried to tear up the belly of the dragon in order to get out from its body. Naofumi understands that the shining crystal is the dragon core. Surprisingly, Filo has eaten the crystal. Meanwhile, Raphtalia gives signs of illness, so they decide to leave. But Raphtalia advises them to clear the dragon mess up first, saying she will manage to be fine. When they return to the village, the villagers notice that the mountain wind has gone back to normal. They give him the amount of money he demanded, but he asks them to use the money to cure Raphtalia instead. They see that Raphtalia has been afflicted with a powerful curse, and they must wrap her with holy water. Unfortunately, they do not have holy water pure enough to dispel curses, and they tell Naofumi to go to the church at the main town to get the water. The villagers later give him the money, and they finally cure Raphtalia. So, Filo gives Naofumi the remaining crystal from the dragon, but unfortunately for him, it does not increase his level. He thinks of the way he misused his power in order to destroy the dragon, and he apologizes to Filo and Raphtalia for putting the two of them in danger. He says there are many things he should have done, but he hesitated and acted like a coward. Filo also apologizes to them for charging into the dragon recklessly because she hated the dragon. Eventually, Naofumi encourages Filo and Raphtalia, saying they are stronger than before and he believes that they will grow together. So, when it is time to sleep, Raphtalia asks Naofumi to sleep with her, but he declines, saying he is not a warm person, and orders Filo to sleep with her instead. He goes outside, determined to stay stronger for the people he loves. Sometime later, Naofumi and the others accept an adventurer job. After fighting all these monsters, they start heading to the capital as Naofumi announces to them that they are wrapping up the trading trip. But before they could wrap up, they need to get potent holy water from the capital church to dispel the curse on Raphtalia. So Naofumi and Filo tell Raphtalia to get better soon. After a while, Naofumi and the others see a group of birds with a girl, but immediately they see Naofumi and his slaves. They run off. Filo really wishes to hunt after them, saying that they will be yummy, but Naofumi tells Filo that those birds are of the same kind with her, so that's some cannibalistic messed up stuff. The girl that was surrounded by the birds moves closer to Naofumi and his slaves and sees Filo talking. She tells them that she dreamed of talking with a Philolial, and she offers Filo a piece of dried meat and starts playing with Filo by touching her feathers. While this happens, Naofumi and Raphtalia notice the way she is dressed, noting that she must be a noble's family daughter. The girl says her name is Melty, and she and Filo become friends. Eventually, Naofumi informs Filo that they have much work to do in the village and that Filo can play with Melty later. In her presence, Filo transforms into a human, and that surprises Melty. They start playing together after Filo takes permission permission from Naofumi, promising that she will come back by sunset, so he warns her not to go too far away. While she's gone, Naofumi and Raphtalia start healing people in the village. After the sunset, Filo enters the room where Naofumi is and tells him that she has made a lot of friends. Filo informs Naofumi that Melty is a girl that traveled to a lot of places like them. So, Filo starts explaining everything that Melty told her regarding how she got separated from her people when she was playing with Filolials. Suddenly, Melty also enters the door where Naofumi and Filo are. Melty asks Naofumi if he can allow her to accompany them for a little while, surprising Naofumi and Raphtalia, and she explains that one day she was on her way to the royal capital, but when she saw the Filolials, she was so engrossed playing with them and got separated from the guards. She heard from Filo that they are heading for the capital the next day and asks Naofumi if he can allow her to follow them. So, Naofumi considers that she is from a noble's family and there might be a reward that comes from it, but he also knows that if he takes her home alone, it might cause problems for him. When Naofumi didn't reply to Melty's request, Filo and Raphtalia beg him to allow her to follow them. He later allows it and asks Melty if there will be a reward that will come from it, and she replies that she will ask her father for the reward. While the group is packing to go back to the capital, some of the villagers gather around Naofumi and appreciate him for his good work, but he tells them that he would love them to show him gratitude with words, and he tells them that he will come back and take back everything they owe him, as he orders Filo to move the carriage. On their way, they all remember the moments they spent in the town, all the food they ate, the way they fought with monsters, and how Filo and Melty started their friendship. They stop at a village to sleep overnight, and Naofumi prepares wood in order to keep them warm while Raphtalia wakes up from her sleep. Raphtalia notices Melty is not with them, but she sees her clothes. They wonder if it was a monster that consumed Melty, but Filo explains that Melty is sleeping in her feathers and she wakes Melty. She tells him that Filo's feathers are warm and cool. Immediately after Raphtalia touches the feathers, she too falls asleep, making Naofumi wonder if the feathers can induce someone to sleep. The next day, Naofumi and his slaves, along with Melty, continue their journey to hand over Melty to her royal family. When they get there, Filo decides to take Melty home herself. So, Naofumi and Raphtalia enter a church, and as he enters the place, some priests come over to him and tell him that they have seen his magnificent duel at the royal palace. They say they can't believe he is battling with just his shield only. He moves toward them and tells them that they should hold their pleasantries, as he only came for a request for holy water. They tell him to pay an offering of 1 gold coin, and he immediately gives it because the life of Raphtalia is so precious to him, even when Raphtalia reluctantly tells him not to give them that amount. So, one of the priest's disciples gives Naofumi low-quality water because she thinks Naofumi is unequal, but the main priest tells her that God is compassionate to all, and she apologizes immediately to give Naofumi good quality water. The disciple later gives Naofumi quality water, and he even checks the power himself. He turns away from them as the priest admonishes him to always show his gratitude to God. As he goes outside with Raphtalia, he hears someone calling his name from behind and signals to Raphtalia to run away, but Raphtalia doesn't understand why they are even running away. So, Naofumi orders Raphtalia to go and call Filo, and he keeps running because he knows they are after him. All of a sudden, when Naofumi thinks that he's escaped from the person chasing him, the spear hero attacks him with full force with his spear weapon. The spear hero asks the shield hero to release Filo to him, saying that he loves seeing her wings and that his love at first sight has overridden him as he loves a blonde animal. So, the spear hero attacks the shield hero because of Filo, but someone comes around to protect the shield hero as Mine also gathers all the palace guards to fight with the shield hero. Before they commence the fight, Mine draws out a letter for an official duel between the spear hero and the shield hero with the authority given to her as a member of the crown. With that, Melty, another royal family member, also appears and orders the other guards to put their weapons down, saying that she will not allow 2 heroes to fight. Unknown to them, Mine and Melty are sisters. Melty tells the spear hero to look around and see the incident he has caused, putting people's lives at risk. Melty tells Mine that she has had enough of her selfishness, but Mine tells her that she is doing her job as she is taking the hero's side. So, Melty tells Mine that she will report her to her mother as Melty apologizes to the villagers for what Mine did. At the sight of Filo, the spear hero goes to meet her and tells her that if she needs a horse, he can give it to her, but she declines it. When the spear hero makes a statement that the shield hero was making her suffer by using a carriage to pull Naofumi all around, Filo tells the spear hero that she hates him and she kicks him in the nuts as she transforms into the winged Filo. So, with that, Mine orders her guards to go and call a doctor to treat Motoyasu as Naofumi smirks, mocking him. Afterward, Naofumi and his 2 slaves, along with Melty, go to meet a man in a shop. Melty explains to them that she is in line for the throne of Melromark. This makes Naofumi and his 2 slaves wonder how she would beat her sister Mine to the throne, but Melty explains that Mine has been a problem child at home due to her personality. Melty explains that she didn't know that Naofumi was the shield hero, and when she wants to continue, Naofumi shuts her up and tells her to get lost. At the blacksmith's shop, Melty tries to promise Naofumi something, but Naofumi cuts her off because of the royal family she belongs to. Soon after, a guard arrives to summon Melty, so she answers immediately and says her farewells to Filo. On Melty's way to the palace with her guard, she arrives to find the queen sending her on a mission. The queen instructs Melty to return to the capital so she can admonish the king for his unjust treatment of the shield hero. The queen wishes she could go herself, but for some unexplained reason, she cannot and must rely on Melty instead. Back where Naofumi and his two companions are, Raphtalia speaks to him and explains that he should have listened to Melty's words before cutting her short. Curiously, Filo asks Naofumi why he behaved that way toward Melty, but Naofumi strictly tells her never to talk to Melty again. Filo asks for a reason, but he ignores her, while Raphtalia understands it is likely because Melty is from the royal family. Filo rushes outside, and while she is there alone, some visitors arrive and meet her. Filo leads these visitors to Naofumi, who asks them exactly what they are looking for. These people ask for permission to accompany him during the next wave because they saw how well he fought in the last one. They tell the shield hero they want to fight alongside him because they are from Loot Village and saw how he saved their families. They want to help him in any way possible to repay him. Naofumi tells them that if they can pay a high price for the accessory he is holding, he will accept them. These people then decide to go and find the money for the item. Sometime later, Raphtalia asks Naofumi how he could do such a thing, asking visitors to buy a leftover accessory for an exorbitant amount. Even the blacksmith they are staying with cannot believe Naofumi's behavior. Naofumi gives the man some metal to work with, but the man tells him that if he wants to upgrade his party's classes, they need to be recognized by the court. Since he is a hero, he should have access to it. Naofumi uses his shield to investigate and sees that they must go to the Dragon Hourglass to upgrade. Later, Naofumi asks Raphtalia which class upgrade she wants to choose, but she replies that she is fine with whatever class he decides for her. However, he insists on her choosing her own path, explaining that after the wave, he plans to return to his world and wants her to choose a path that will help her future life. At the Dragon Hourglass, Naofumi and his two companions arrive, and the officials tell him that a class upgrade costs 15 gold pieces per person. Naofumi tells Raphtalia to go first. He gives the official the required amount, but a man appears and tells Naofumi that they have been forbidden from providing upgrades to the shield hero's party by order of the king. Naofumi angrily takes back his coins and leaves the place. Naofumi and his companions go to meet the slave trader, who says his business is doing well with the traveling trade. The man praises Raphtalia and Filo for being high-quality slaves. He asks Naofumi if he needs another slave or another filial experiment, but Naofumi tells the man to arrange class upgrades for him since the country will not allow it. He reminds the man that he mentioned having a slave over level 40. The man explains he does not offer that service himself, but can connect him to the Dragon Hourglass in another country. Because Naofumi is the first to ask about that offer, the man provides a map for free and picks a favorable country for upgrades. He recommends Soapfelt, explaining that it will take 2 weeks to a month to get there depending on the transportation. The man also advises equipping the Filial Queen with a weapon. Philo is excited by the mention of a weapon, and the man charges 5 gold pieces for it. Naofumi gives him something valuable in exchange, making the merchant happy that Naofumi has grown into a man he likes. The man gives Naofumi a wyvern stone for Philo and says he should test it where the monsters are kept. Sometime later, Naofumi and his slaves enter the area, but the stench of the place is almost too much for them to bear. Raphtalia wonders why there would be monsters in the capital's sewers. On their way, they see a dragon. Raphtalia attacks the dragon first, while Filo uses the claw weapon the slave merchant gave her to fight, but Raphtalia is soon injured during the battle. At night, when Naofumi wants to heal Raphtalia, he uses bandages, and the area where the bandages are applied heals immediately. Naofumi tells Raphtalia to let her injury heal quickly so they can prepare for the next wave. While he stocks up on medicine for her, Raphtalia worries that after the wave is repelled, he will go back to his own world, and she asks if she can go with him. Suddenly, Filo wakes up and accuses Raphtalia of trying to kiss Naofumi. Naofumi tells them both to be quiet and prepare for the next day. The next morning, Naofumi and his companions start their journey in their carriage. They reach a town and stop there. Some villagers beg him to trade what they have to him for food. The villagers explain they are refugees from the north who started a revolution, and the person who led them used a bow. Naofumi orders Raphtalia to set up a kitchen for the villagers, and food is served to them. After helping the villagers, Naofumi informs his companions that the wave will hit in the next 72 hours. However, Filo says she is hungry because all she thinks about is food, so Naofumi takes them to lunch. They enter a building to eat, where Ren and Itsuki are also present, so Naofumi and his companions watch them from a distance. Ren is having issues regarding how he overthrew a tyrant in the north. The guild did not pay him and gave the reward to someone else instead. Itsuki is also having similar issues and is trying to figure out who is pretending to be them. As they talk, Ren's companion tells him she received a request to overthrow a lord who is taxing citizens beyond the legal limit. Naofumi overhears Ren and Itsuki and connects their words to the taxes mentioned by the villagers, realizing that their actions are causing problems for the people. Ren feels that someone needs to be taught that with great power comes great responsibility. When their meal is served, Filo makes an excited sound because the food is delicious. Ren and Itsuki quickly notice Naofumi and confront him, accusing him of impersonating them and stealing their rewards. Naofumi asks if they were the the adventurers who helped the resistance in the north. They say yes, but Naofumi explains that while things improved at first, the resistance started raising taxes. Naofumi then asks if they are referring to the disease. Itsuki asks why Naofumi stole their job, but Naofumi explains that the corpse of the dragon they killed caused an epidemic. He got rid of the corpse, which is why their job was cancelled. Because of their carelessness, people died from the spreading disease. Itsuki believes him, but Ren remains skeptical. Later, Naofumi goes to see the equipment merchant, who embeds a zombie dragon core into Naofumi's breastplate and adds an auto repair function. Naofumi feels like the breastplate makes him look like a bandit, but Filo likes it. Suddenly, the people from Loot Village who wanted to join him return. They have raised the 150 silver pieces Naofumi asked for. Naofumi surprises them by giving the money back, telling them to use it to buy equipment for themselves. They are very happy. Naofumi uses his shield to check their levels and sees they are lower than his. He warns them that if they betray him, they will pay for it, but they promise they won't. Eventually, Naofumi suggests they hold their first meeting immediately. In a quiet corner, two people are talking secretly. One person reports that Melty and the shield hero have made contact. It seems the queen has ordered the informant to keep a constant eye on them. The queen, receiving the information, wonders to herself if the heroes will be able to handle the upcoming wave. The shield hero, his two companions, and his volunteer warriors go to the Dragon Hourglass. The merchant who sells equipment is also with them. He tells them he has gathered some extra weapons to use as backup during the wave. They also stock up on plenty of medicine to heal people. Naofumi gives Raphtalia a present, a bracelet for her wrist that will boost her mana. He also gives Filo a gift, which is a hairpin for her hair that will increase her agility. The warriors who volunteered to join Naofumi start checking the countdown for the next wave. When the timer reaches 0, they tell him that the time for the battle has finally come. Naofumi tells him that they will all be teleported together, so he teleports along with his two companions and his warriors, leaving the equipment merchant behind. Inside the wave, monsters begin attacking the villagers. The warriors who join the shield hero defend one of the villagers and attack a monster. They do not notice a large lizardman attacking from behind, but the shield hero, Raphtalia, and Filo strike the lizardman in a flash. This makes the two warriors wonder at their strength. Naofumi tells the warriors to stay alert because more monsters are coming. After he says this, two more monsters appear, but an unknown woman kills them with a single hit. This makes Raphtalia and Filo wonder who she is. The woman faces the shield hero and thanks him for helping her. Naofumi quickly remembers that she is the woman he healed in a different town. The woman tells them that these monsters are small and easy for her to handle because she used to fight a lot when she was an adventurer. While she is talking, the other warriors join the shield hero and report that they have evacuated the villagers. Naofumi tells the warriors to stay alert and wipe out the remaining monsters. The shield hero waits for more monsters to show up, but none appear for 3 hours. Eventually, Naofumi tells his two companions to move further away to search. On their way, the shield hero and his companions see a large ghost ship surrounded by monsters. Ren is using his weapon to attack the monsters surrounding the ship. Motoyasu and Itsuki are inside the ship attacking Soul Eater monsters, but they cannot seem to damage them. The shield hero arrives at their location, carried by Filo. He advises the other heroes that they must work together to fight the Soul Eaters, otherwise the monsters will continue to multiply. He tells them that if they lose this fight, all the villagers will die. Naofumi uses his skills to check the level of the Soul Eater and sees it is higher than their own levels. He also checks to see if there is another way the monsters are appearing. Naofumi orders Raphtalia to use her light magic and tells Filo to attack. Suddenly, the Soul Eater spreads across the entire ship. Ren, Itsuki, and Motoyasu use their magic, but their spells do not seem to work. Naofumi tells Filo and Raphtalia to get behind him so the Soul Eater does not spray poison on them. When the Soul Eater pours a green substance from its mouth, everyone on the ship falls to the ground, but Naofumi uses his shield to protect Filo and Raphtalia. Later, he tells them to attack the Soul Eater again, but their attacks still do not work. Seeing that they are running out of time, Naofumi tells Raphtalia he must use the Rage Shield. Raphtalia has no choice but to accept. When he uses the Rage Shield, he sees the spirit of the zombie dragon he fought before, and the dragon tells Naofumi he will pay for what he did. As Naofumi uses the shield, his body and face seem to turn to fire. The other heroes do not understand what he is going through. Mina starts saying cruel things, claiming Naofumi is just turning into a wild beast. Immediately, Raphtalia confronts the heroes. She tells them they should not speak like that or just stand there watching because Naofumi is risking his life to fight for the villagers and for them. After hearing Raphtalia's words, the heroes start looking at him differently. Ren uses his weapon to attack the Soul Eater from a distance, and although Mine tells Motoyasu not to help the shield hero, both Motoyasu and Itsuki eventually help Naofumi attack the monsters. When Raphtalia cannot stand to see him in pain anymore, she holds Naofumi's hands to help him turn back into a normal human. He returns to his senses and remembers his promise to protect Filo, Raphtalia, and the villagers. He uses his shield skills to trap the monsters in a shield prison. He then hangs the prison in the air and summons the Iron Maiden to crush it. What Naofumi does surprises all the other heroes. Filo changes back to her human form and goes to meet Motoyasu, who is boasting that he could do the same thing Naofumi did. Before he can finish speaking, the environment around them changes and new monsters appear. However, a sudden strike clears the monsters away. A girl descends from the sky and tells the hero she is disappointed in them. She asks how they can be the heroes the world relies on if they cannot kill a single monster. She moves closer and says that among all the heroes standing there, only one person is a true hero. She faces the shield hero and asks for his name. He attacks her and tells her she should be the one to introduce herself first. She introduces herself as Glass. She tells them they should feel free to consider her their enemy. Naofumi introduces himself as Glass draws her iron fans to begin the fight, the true battle of the wave. During the battle of the wave, Glass appears before the heroes. She describes the fight as the true battle of the wave, specifically for Naofumi, because she recognizes him as the only hero capable of facing and conquering the world's fate. Naofumi uses his skills to check Glass's level, but he only sees a question mark instead of a number. Glass tells Naofumi to attack her first and even tells him to order all of his servants to fight her, referring to the other numbskull heroes. The word servant makes the other heroes very angry, and they draw their weapons against Glass. However, none of their weapons affect her at all, which surprises everyone. She attacks them with magic, and all of the heroes except Naofumi are unable to stand firmly. After a moment, Naofumi uses his shield prison to trap her, but she breaks the iron bars surrounding the prison and frees herself. Naofumi sends his two companions to attack her, but they cannot defeat her. When she draws her fan blade at Raftalia, Naofumi uses his skills to send two monsters toward her, but she treats them like a simple game. Naofumi even sends Filo to give her quick kicks, but Glass seems to admire the attempts because not even Filo's kicks can touch her. Naofumi tries to use shield prison again, but nothing works, and it even puts Filo and Raftalia in danger. Naofumi decides to use the rage shield, and Raftalia gives him permission to do so. Naofumi moves close to Glass with his fiery rage, but the shield does not feel hot to her. Instead, she says it feels cold like a burning furnace. Glass attacks Naofumi, but she cannot touch him, which makes her realize that Naofumi's defense really lives up to his title as a shield hero. However, Naofumi uses a shield skill on Glass and immediately lifts her up. He uses the Iron Maiden to lock her inside, but she breaks the Iron Maiden, surprising both Naofumi and Raftalia. Soon after, the sky starts to change, which alerts Glass that the wave will end very soon. Naofumi gives Raftalia a signal to use her light magic. Glass boasts that even if the wave ends soon, it will end with her victory. Raftalia uses light magic on her, and Naofumi quickly heals Filo, telling her to carry him and Raftalia away. Glass starts looking for them, and when she notices them, she attacks Filo while she is carrying the others. Naofumi uses his shield to block the attack as Filo runs at a very high speed. Glass gives up on chasing them because her attacks can no longer reach them. She promises to disappear for now, but assures herself that if Naofumi stays at his current level, he will not survive their next encounter. Glass disappears back into the sky, certain that her side will triumph. Naofumi and his companions see the sky change back as the wave disappears. Raftalia later realizes they had to use the light magic just to run away from Glass. When the light returns to normal, all the villagers go back to their daily lives. Meanwhile, Naofumi sits and thinks about the fight with Glass. He notices that he could not see any information about her stats. From the fight, he realizes he needs to know the true reason for the waves and why Glass is so determined to defeat the heroes. He asks himself many questions but finds no answers. He is determined to grow stronger before the next wave so that people do not end up dying. He also decides to get a class upgrade for Filo and Raftalia and to upgrade his own skills. While he is thinking about his next steps, a group of guards informs him that he has been ordered to report to the castle. Afterward, Naofumi reports to the king's palace. The king appreciates his work in stopping the wave, but he is still unable to come down from his ridiculously high horse. Naofumi feels that the king's gratitude is not enough. He says that if it were not for the warriors who begged him to go to the capital, he would not have shown up at all. The king is very curious about how Naofumi obtained his strength and orders him to reveal the secret of his power. Naofumi tells the king that if he wants to know the secret, the king must kneel down before him. This amazes everyone in the room. Naofumi even bluffs, saying he can eliminate the king if he is not careful. Immediately, the guards surrounding the king draw their swords to fight Naofumi, but he makes them realize that if they kill him, no one will be able to stop the monsters. Naofumi tells the king that the wave is the only thing bothering him, and once the waves are gone, he will go back to his home. He then walks out. As he leaves, the king dares him by saying his wretched slaves will suffer for his behavior. That word does not bother Naofumi. He warns the king that if he dares to lay a hand on his party, he will chase the king to the ends of the earth and make him pay. On Naofumi's way out, a lady walks beside him and says the way he acted was splendid because the king has never appreciated his efforts. She warns Naofumi to use extreme caution as he moves forward and shows him a small piece of iron equipment. After a while, Melty enters the palace. When the king sees her, he tells her she can ask for anything and he will do it for her. She tells him she heard he just talked to the shield hero and that the conversation was hostile. She tells the king that if he continues to be difficult with the shield hero, they might lose the fight against the wave. waves, which would threaten the safety of the country. She begs the king to reconcile with the shield hero and asks why he hates him so much. The king tells her that if he let the shield hero and the demi-humans do whatever they wanted, he would lose his family. As Melty is still begging the king, Mine enters the palace. Mine tells Melty that her defiance is an insult and that the king's word is final. She says the princesses cannot overturn the king's decisions and that what the king is doing is for the betterment of the country. She advises Melty to wait until she grows older. Melty tells Mine it is none of her business and that since the king and queen care about the country, it is her job as a crown princess to see the whole situation through. When she sees that Mine has interfered, she tells the king she will see him later and turns away. The king watches her leave, while Mine holds onto the king's hand, burning with anger. Later, Naofumi's party goes to meet the equipment merchant. The man says he heard Naofumi went to the palace to pick a fight with the king, but Naofumi explains it was actually the king who started the fight. The man says he has all the equipment they could need. He doubts the country will allow Naofumi to use the dragon hourglass. Naofumi says he has no plan to use that one. He plans to go to Siltveld or Shieldfrieden instead. The man shows him a map and recommends Shieldfrieden. He advises that it will take a month to reach and suggests traveling by Filo as it will be faster than a wagon. The man even helps them pack their things, which makes Filo very happy. Naofumi asks for another sword for Raptalia, but she declines, saying he should save the money for their class upgrades. Soon after, Naofumi and his party set out for another country. Naofumi and Raptalia look at what the merchant gave them, a shield accessory for Naofumi and a monosword for Raptalia that she can use on enemies without causing physical harm. They stop at a beach, where Raptalia and Filo play in the water. Naofumi thinks about the items given to them for the Filo they are using for travel. At a quiet place, the party stops to rest. Naofumi enjoys the travel, feeling that no one will stop him, not the heroes or the royalty. All of a sudden, Melty and her guards arrive. Filo is happy to see her, but Naofumi does not like her being there. Filo tells him Melty is a good girl. Melty moves closer and tells Naofumi she wants him to return to the capital and meet with King Altcray again. Naofumi refuses, but she tells him to go back and apologize. She says the country needs him to stop the waves and he needs the king's financial support. Melty feels sad because she dislikes that the shield hero and the king are fighting. She tells Naofumi to apologize. If he won't, the queen will have to come to the palace herself to yell at the king. Naofumi does not know what to do. He looks at Melty's guards and sees a crystal item on one of them. He senses a setup and remembers what happened during Mine's betrayal. Immediately, one of the guards comes forward with a sword to attack Melty from the back, and Naofumi uses his shield to protect her.